All right, so tonight we'll be looking at love through sacrifice. Love through sacrifice. I heard a story about sacrifice, and tonight you're going to see another great version of sacrifice in our couple. So tonight, to do us the honors of sharing their story with us is no other couple but the Wilsons. So with a clap of let's welcome General Morris and Auntie Sonia to the stage. Let's give them a clap until they take their seats. Anywhere you want to sit. Okay, I think let's do it this way. Let Auntie Sonia sit in the middle, so one of us could. Yeah, all right, great. Try to balance. Thank you very much. Can I get some mics? Yes. So welcome, Uncle Morris and Auntie Sonia, the Wilsons. Say hi to your audience. All right, we thank God so much. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be our panelists this evening. Before we start, I want to ask, quickly introduce yourselves to us. Who is Auntie Sonia, who is Brother Morris? Kindly tell us, yeah.
Sonia Wilson.
Okay.
Hi. So I am, this is a very, this question, it's an easy question, but it's like one of those questions like you think about, okay, who is Sonia Wilson? Well, I am a mother. Most importantly, I'm a child of God, a woman of God, a mother, a wife, and I love the Lord with all my heart. I love music.
Okay.
Love to see young people involved, and especially when it comes to the musical aspect, I love to see young people involved in music, whether it's singing, dancing. It's just it just really gets me going when I see young people, especially. Everybody should be involved, but I love just the young people when they're involved in music. Yeah.
Great,
that's
we have a matron. Can we take note? Thank you very much. But what do you do professionally?
Oh, professionally, I am an accountant.
Okay, great.
Yes, I am a certified public accountant.
Thank you very much, Auntie Sonia. Uncle Morris, our general, can you tell us about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Maurice. I'm the husband of the certified public accountant. But I too, I am a child of God. I love the Lord. And I also do love music, and that's something we have in common. What I do for a living, I am in the United States Navy. Next week, Tuesday, will be my 15th year.
Wow.
15 years, so 5 more to go. 5 more. Uncle Sam, 5 more.
Thank you for your
support. Amen. There's a bush here. I can't see mommy. But yeah, so 15 years next week. Looking to finish up strong. I too love music, and I'm the father of 3 beautiful girls.
Wow.
Right. And I think that's it.
That's all. Thank you very much. Do you have Beware of Dogs on your house?
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm watching carefully.
All right. So I have a couple of questions here. I'm going to ask. How long have you known each other, and how long have you been married? Let me start with Uncle Morris.
All right. So this year we'll be married 21 years.
Wow.
And we've known each other for about 24 years.
Okay.
24. Sister Blessing, that's too long?
Yeah, that's a good long time.
Yeah, so we've known each other for about 20, going on 26 years, actually.
Wow.
We've been married almost 21 years.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to start with Mrs. Wilson. So let's start from the beginning. How did you both meet? So let me start with Auntie Sonia. How did you both meet?
Like we mentioned, we both have music in common.
Okay.
And so we met, well, the first time I met Mr. Wilson, He actually was visiting from Jamaica. I had recently relocated to Florida, and he was visiting for the Christmas holidays, and that was the first time we met in church. After that, he came back to the States to permanently reside, and we had mutual connections. He used to visit my church quite often. And
She wanted me to visit her.
he used to visit my church quite often, and that's how we kind of, got talking, and yeah.
All right, great. One thing led to the other. And finally, we are here.
We're here.
Morris, tell me your version of it.
So my version is the right version. So like Sonia said, I came here on holidays once, and I was at the church. And when I met her, there was no romantic interest at all. One would say she was not my spec. And it's the truth, and we've talked about this many times. There was another young lady I was interested in, but it so happened that I went back home, came back on holidays again, and when I came back, she was gone. And I said, oh, this nice girl that used to sing on the choir, what happened? So she went to another church, and when I came now to start my schooling, I started playing all over South Florida. I used to be a traveling musician, and then I ended up going to her church because they needed a musician for some events. And I saw her, and we just kind of talked. It wasn't anything, like I said, she wasn't my specs. I wasn't looking that way, but I have been delivered. Amen?
Amen.
That was then. This is.
This is now, yeah.
And the Lord opened my eyes, and when he opened my eyes, it was when I went to her church one Sunday evening to play for their praise and worship team, and she was the preacher for that day.
Wow.
And I remember meeting her at my first church, and when she transferred, I don't remember the details, but she was in a purple suit, purple top, purple bottom, light gray stocking, about a 3-inch heel, black shoes, a ponytail with a bang in the front.
Wow.
And she preached a message about sacrificing for God. And I sat there on the drums that day, and I said, this is it. That's the one. And that's how we went along. That's it.
Great. So that's leading me to my follow-up question. How you arrived at? I think you have shared with us how you came about the fact that this is your wife. Auntie Sonia, how did you arrive at Uncle Morris that this man is who I want to do life with?
I think what really started my interest was the fact that he was coming to my church. He wasn't being paid.
Oh.
He was going to his church in the mornings, playing at his church, and then in the evenings he would find his way to my local assembly, not getting paid, stay for the whole service, but not even just coming and just playing and leaving, but actually staying for the entirety of the service and was actually engaged in the service. And I thought that was very interesting, rather unusual for a musician, because musicians, they tend to, nowadays musicians especially, they tend to follow the money, right? Yeah. So they're not just gonna get up and go to a church to play for nothing. Yeah. So that really sparked my interest, and I'm like, well, this young man is really committed. And the other thing that I knew his parents, I knew his background. His father had ministered at our church a few times, and I knew his mom. So there was that mutual connection in terms of, knowing what his family background was. And so I guess everything just aligned, and that's when I started to see. It's not the mic, it's just the system. That's when the Lord really helped me to realize that there is something there. And so I started praying about it, and we just really started off just as casual hellos and just kind of getting to know each other before we even went down the road of, okay, there is really something there.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much.
There's a
Come on, you want to add something to it?
There's a part there I was missing.
Yeah, okay.
So how did I know? So we started talking, but like I said, I wasn't interested. I remember one day I used to play drums for this young man. He was traveling all over the country, and I used to play music for him. Then he wanted a backup singer, and she ended up becoming a part of that band. So she sang backup for him as well. And I remember, good alto. I was like, this girl's a strong voice. She's a good-looking girl, but I wasn't still, nah. And then one day in particular, I was sharing that I was struggling in school. I was doing a math class. I think it was pre-calculus or whatever, and I was struggling. And I remember getting a call one day at home, because back then we didn't have cell phones. So I picked up the phone and said, hello, who's this? And she said, it's Sonia. So I said, okay, Sonia, how can I help you, ma? And she was like, are you home? I was like, yes, you called the house phone. And she said, come outside. So I said, come outside. So I went outside, and she said, oh, I got something for you. So I said, okay, that's strange. So she gave me a bag. I opened the bag. It was a Texas Instrument scientific calculator.
Oh.
And I said, this calculator is like $300. And she said, no, I heard you were struggling with maths. I want to help you.
Wow.
It was discounted.
But you still gave it out, yeah?
Yeah. But, so I took the calculator and I was like, why would this girl give me this expensive calculator? And not realize she was calculating certain things in the background. But that's so, and I realized, okay, there's something going on.
Yeah, great. I think that's very sacrificial. And to Sonia, we started seeing the sacrifice, right, from the beginning. All right, so you have been married for 21 years. This year, 21 years. We thank God for how far He has brought you. Yeah, so I want to ask about the marriage. What's the first major shock in your marriage? That when you got married, first major shock that you identified when you entered into marriage?
Or I have plenty shocks. But the first couple ones I can tell is you're not your own. I think that's part of the thing that shocked me the most. Like, you used to do things. I used to travel. When I said I traveled, if somebody wanted a drummer or a keyboard player in New York, I'm gone. If somebody wanted somebody in Georgia, I'm gone. I was my own person. But when I got married, things changed. And what do you mean I can't go? And that was the biggest shock, because I was free-spirited. Back then, I would follow the money. If somebody wanted an engineer somewhere, anywhere the music was, it took me, I went there. And I think that to me was the biggest shock, that no, I can't just get up and do what I want to do. Yeah. So that was a shock for me.
Now you have to consult before.
My brother.
I just wonder, what's one of the major shocks that you'd experience in your marriage from the onset? So.
Biggest shock. I think it's just the fact that I was I guess in some respect it's similar to him. I wasn't my own person, but now I am. At one point, my mom was cooking for me and doing all these things, and I was free to come and go, and I would work and come in and all of these things, and it was me and my mom, and now I'm the one responsible for a house and cooking and cleaning and all of these things. And I think the first few months of it was okay, but after a little while I was like, man, is this what marriage really is all about? Just taking care of somebody else and all of that. So I think that was the shock.
Yeah, great. A high sense of responsibility. Unless some people run away to their mom and tell their moms, no, I want to be taken care of. All right, thank you. So we now head on to one of the key aspects of our discussion this evening. As we know, Uncle Morris is in the military, and to serve America is one big deal. So that's where our sense of sacrifice is going to come in. So I want to ask, starting with Auntie Sonia, are you a military spouse? And was he in the military before you met, or it was after you got married?
No, we were actually about 5-6 years into our marriage when we decided to join the military.
Oh, okay. So let me ask Uncle Morris, what are some of the requirements or the demands that the military service puts on a person? Like generally, including yourself. Yeah.
Generally, they require you to be deployable.
Yeah, okay.
They require you to obey orders at all times. If you've ever seen a military movie or been in a military, we are order-based, so you execute the orders of which you are given. So that's definitely the MO of the military. You follow orders, and sometimes you feel like you don't have any control, and times you probably don't. But once you take that oath and you enlist, you are sworn to the orders given to you by the President of the United States and or your superior officers above you.
Okay, great. All right, so I want to ask, I know one of the things that's talking about deployments, and one other thing is about being moved around from one base to the other. How many times have you moved so far?
4.
Oh, okay,
4.
from where to where to where to where?
We've been blessed in our military career because the places that we've actually moved twice to places. So our first move was from Florida. We moved from Florida to San Diego, California, and then from California we moved here to Texas. Then we moved from Texas back to California, and then from California back to Texas. So we've been very blessed because other persons have moved in so many different locations, but God has just kept us back and forth between 2 locations so far. Thank God.
All right, great. So I want to ask about the move. How has it been? What was the move, the impact of the move on your marriage generally, and even the family?
Some things I can think about. On the family, I'll give you the negatives, and then if you want to do the positive, I can do the positive. But the negatives is you're literally, for enlisted, I'm enlisted, you have to move every 36 months or every 3 years, unless you get an extension. Okay. So you're thinking about as soon as you get settled into a particular place, you know the people, you know the roads, you know where the restaurants are, you find a nice little church, it's time to go. And that's the hardest part about being in the military. Your children, they have friends, they have a school that they like, they start to build those kind of connections, and before you know it, it's time to uproot them. You buy a house and you get used to the house, you make some upgrades and you're getting comfortable, all of a sudden it's time to go. So those are some of the negatives I've realized. And I remember one point, I don't remember if we were in California or we were back here, and Sonia was trying to find a job. And that's another thing too, your spouse is purely at the will of the service member. So you have a good job here in Texas, I get orders to move, now the spouse has to now quit that job and go somewhere else and start all over. Even though your career is going, your retirement, everything is tracking to the right, your spouse is resetting every so often. And I remember one particular employer said to her, "Why should we employ you? Based on your resume, you're going to be gone in 2.5 years." And it's a legit question. Even though there are provisions in the law that protects military spouses from those type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Prejudices or whatever it is because of my military service. But if I'm going to invest in an employee, train them, get them up to speed, before you know it, it's time for them to go. So those are some of the negatives I've seen. And of course, like I said, it's just the constant change. Like my kids have been to so many different schools, they probably can't write a book right by now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that is so very true because Savannah went to 3 different high schools, and I remember when we moved here and she settled in her junior year in high school here. She had some concerns because being in your junior year and going into senior year, getting ready for college and all of that, there were gaps. And she was so very concerned, and I remember just one day just trying to comfort her and telling her, I understand that you feel like you're behind, and you feel like, if you were in one location for your entire high school period, then it would have been better for you. But I, just had to encourage her that God works everything out. And, thanks be to God, when she graduated high school, she graduated almost with an associate's degree because she had so many classes that contributed towards that. So, like I mentioned before, God has been so faithful throughout this journey. Even when we were looking to do our previous move, and we desired to come back to Texas, and us as a family, we really ask God, God, please open the door for us. I remember he was in his last window. So they have like a period of time where they would select where they would move to next. And he was in his last window, his last look. And he didn't choose anything because we were set, like, God, Texas is where we want to go back. And I remember the day when they gave him like 24 hours to make a decision. And the morning of.
Yeah, the morning of, my detailer, that's a person who tells you where to go, said, hey, I'm giving you till tomorrow, Friday at noon to give me a decision. And all the places were, I don't even know where to describe it. It's northeast where reindeers fly. I mean, it's some terrible, terrible locations. I mean, some of them were close to Canada. And I said, why would I want to go there? And I remember a year previously, they had given me Texas, the base I'm at right now, and they took it away. It disappeared.
Oh, wow.
And when I spoke to the detailer, I said, hey, I would like to go back. She said, that is completely gone. I gave you 3 options. You have no choice. You have 24 hours to give me a decision. And just like that, I remember the time was winding up, and like she was getting to, the detailer called me at 10. I was responding to a medical emergency on the base, and while I was responding to that emergency, my phone rang, and it was a detailer, and I took myself away from the emergency, and I said to the detailer, you gave me till 12, and she said, no, I'm not calling you about that. You still want to go to Texas?
Oh.
I said, yes, I thought it wasn't available. She said she don't know what happened, but it just showed up. And I called, right away I called you, right, Mom? I called Sister Daniels and Pastor. I said, Pastor, you won't believe what happened. All of a sudden, Texas showed back up out of the blue. And they said they're going to pray, and they prayed. And before we were able to load the patient and to go back to my office, I got an email saying, congratulations, you're going back to Texas.
Glory. Glory, glory. So I want to ask about Auntie Sonia. What are some of the sacrifices that had been required of you, some of the extra demands that had been required of you because of his profession? He has mentioned about your job, like if you can expand on that.
Right. Yeah, he did mention about the job situation, and especially in the earlier years when the economy was really at a low point and things were just starting to pick back up. And it was so difficult to find an employer who would invest in an employee who they know would be gone within a few years. So that part was really, really difficult for me. And so I found myself just doing one temp job, one after, just to make sure that, you know, we were supplementing our income. The other sacrifice is, of course, with family. Yep. Because when we were in Florida, before the military, we had family around. You know, his mom, my mom, sisters, people were around us, and our local church family was there supporting us. Because even before we joined the military, we had a miscarriage, and the support that we got from our local church family and our immediate family was just so overwhelming that had we been on our own, it would have been so much more difficult. So having moved away from all of that support, I think was the most difficult part. Yeah. Because you know that you can't just call mom and say, hey mom, can you just come over and watch the kids for me? You know, those things were not available. But again, I always go back to God has been so faithful.
Amen. Because
even through all of these moves and changes, we always seem to find a church family that felt like we were still home.
Great.
And I remember one of the times when we were in San Diego, and he had to, I think he was getting ready to move fully to Texas, and he had to be away for, was it 3 months? About 3 months. So it was just me, Savannah, and Sarai was a baby then. And it was just us, and I worked like 45 minutes away from home, and the kids were at a school that was close to home. So the first lady in the church, she was the one that really supported, and she would say, okay, what do you need? Do you need me to go pick up the kids for you? And she was always there helping and just doing whatever she could. She would cook and send over food and all of these things just to make sure. And even when Sarai was born, she was the one who was like a mother to me, because she cooked and she brought all these pepper soup, and I'm telling her, Mommy, I don't eat those things, I don't. But she was just always there. So, in all of that, yes, I had to sacrifice leaving my family, and our local family, but God provided family and people to help us.
Awesome. Let me ask this on a very lighter note. Mrs. Wilson, are soldiers always stern and serious and structured? Are soldiers like...
Oh, my word. Yes, she is by the book, ones and zeros, black and white, no gray area. She's always been like that ever since I've known her.
Okay, but, military men are also like that. Auntie Sonia, what do you say about that?
Military man. not this military man. He's... Yes, there are times when he's, strict and focused, but I think he's just such a free-spirited person that he knows how to turn it on and off. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. In fact, those who are afraid of soldiers, Uncle Morris is an evidence that no. All right, so generally, I want to ask, can you tell us general advice you could give to couples who are considering military in terms of how they could make their marriage work? Sometimes some people are deployed to places like 6 months, and they're like, how can you make a military marriage work? Yeah.
Even in this last 15 years, like Sonia said, there are times when I would actually go on assignment. I'd go to a particular training, and I think the longest one I've gone to, I was in, while we were stationed we're in Florida. I think I was in Pensacola for 9 months. Oh. And after boot camp. So you go to boot camp for about 3.5 months, and then you go to what's called your school, MOS or your A school. And I was there for a whole 9 months. And that to me was the toughest time of my life, because you're away from family. Savannah was about 2.5, 3 years old, and you don't get to see them. So to answer your question, how do you... It's just God, because you have to make that sacrifice, especially if you're a close family, you'll feel that separation. Phone calls are good, and those are critical. You can't do without phone calls. And thank God for WhatsApp. Before we had iPhones, we had WhatsApp, and you could start doing video and everything that was free. Or once we got iPhones, we were able to do messaging and stuff, but it was difficult to stay away. And I would say one thing I'd advise any couple that's trying to join the military is make sure that you have a strong foundation, because of your service members' obligations, they will travel. Yeah. They will leave, and they won't be there all the time. If you're a person that loves that person to be around you all the time, you're going to have a hard time. It seems as if every time I leave, that's when something happens to the car. I remember I was on assignment, and she called me and said she can't get out of the house. I said, what do you mean? The garage door won't open. The spring or something broke, and she was trapped inside. No, Savannah is there. Savannah has to go to school. She has to go to work. And it's always one thing or the other. So I had to start to think ahead. What can I do to make sure that if something were to happen, they're okay? I showed her how to open the garage. I showed her how to jumpstart the car. We're still working on changing tire. We're still working on that one. It's 15 years, and by God's grace, she learned to change tire. Triple A. It's okay. But you have to kind of find those little things, those little nuances as to how can you make things work when you're not around. And like I said, the devil is so busy. The minute you leave, some things, for whatever reason, goes helter-skelter.
All right. Auntie Sonia, I want to add something to it from your end here.
So repeat the question.
It has to do with how to make a military marriage work. Like, what are some of the things to be prepared for, things to handle as the marriage is ongoing, to make it strong and sustainable?
Yeah. You really have to find ways to stay connected. especially if your spouse is away. We had opportunity or reasons why we were separated for periods of time, and it was important for us to keep those conversations going. I'll tell him how the day was, what the kids are up to, and we would have those communication consistently going and praying together, even in the distance. We would set time aside to pray together with the kids, just to make sure that we're staying connected. So those are things that, especially, you know, if you're new to this type of career, because it is a career, this type of structure, you definitely have to make sure that your communication is consistent, and you have to be intentional about keeping that communication line open.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
I know when she said communication and has to be intentional, there's a running joke now in the military. I won't say what branch I work for, but people would go on a ship. You would have 1,000 singles go on a ship, and 500 couples come back. All right, so do the math, and it happens.
Yeah.
You will see people that will go out on deployment. They'll do whatever it is when they're out of sight, out of mind. And when they come back to shore, the spouse is there with the children, and everybody's hugging. So you're hugging your husband, I'm hugging my wife, and these two persons that are hugging are looking at you like this because they had something on the ship. So you have to be very intentional, because I'm telling you, once you get into that world, you spend so much time with your comrades. Yeah. That sometimes some undue relationships start to form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have to be very intentional. So make sure you do the needful. You know what I'm talking about. But when you get a chance to connect, really connect, because there's always outside influences trying to come in.
All right. So yeah, let's appreciate them. Before I ask my final question, yeah. So this from YAYA. They want me to find out from you, knowing what you know now, what will you have done differently during your courtship days? You are going back to your courtship days. What will you do differently during your courtship days? Mrs. Sonia, Mrs. Wilson, yeah.
I don't think I would have done anything necessarily differently.
Okay.
I'm glad that we took the time to really get to know each other before we got to the stage of courting. That's important, because we started out as just mutual friends and developed our relationship. We didn't just start out as, oh yeah, I see this one and we're ready to get married. No, we took the time to learn about each other, be actual friends. And I can honestly say that my husband is my best friend.
Oh,
and
great.
And it really started from just those days of getting to know each other.
All right. So, Uncle Morris, what will you do differently? Yep, if you have to share with us.
What would I do differently? It's a courting.
Courtship, yeah, doing a courtship, yeah.
I would have gone to her mother sooner.
Okay.
I wasted too much time. Like I said, I was in a previous relationship before, and I thought that was going somewhere. But like I said, my eyes were blinded, but the Lord opened it. And once I saw the light, the rest is history. So had I known her for who she is at the time, I would have done it sooner than the time I did.
Great. Let's appreciate our couple. All right. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us. We will now invite questions from the house, if anyone has a question. All right. So we have some questions uploaded already. Okay. Star Blessing, let's start from online. Oh, okay. Your personal question. All right. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know that you touched on it briefly with your pastor's wife, but I want to ask, how can communities support military families? Like, what are things that people can do to kind of help with the sacrifice and the transitions and moves and things like that?
Just be intentional. These are persons who are uprooted, sometimes not because they want to, Especially these detailers can be very cruel. They'll give you 3 choices and they give you the 5th one that you didn't choose. So when you see them, be supportive of them. Find out from them how they are, especially if the service member has deployed or is on assignment. The spouses that are left behind, sometimes they won't tell you, but how are the children doing? I remember when we came here firstly, we didn't have any family. So it was Brother Ebenezer, Deacon Chinedu, were our points of contact to pick up the kids if something were to go wrong, and those things help. So find out from these military families, how can I assist? Do you have someone to help you with the children? If you need to do something, how can I assist you? And I think that will go a long way. Just talk to them, and if they're honest, they'll tell you where they need help.
All right, thank you.
Yes, that's very true. And one thing, especially if the spouse is not a working spouse, and as a stay-at-home mom, a military personnel's salary is not the greatest, especially if they're enlisted and they're just starting out in their career. So as a church family or an organization of any sort, look for ways that you can support, whether it's if you have a food pantry, encourage the military family, we have a food pantry, feel free to come and join, stuff like that, because military families, they do struggle. Okay. They do struggle from one paycheck to the next, especially if one spouse is not working, one spouse is a stay-at-home spouse, and the fact that, the service member may be deploying quite often, it requires that spouse is home consistently for the children, especially if they have young children, to kind of keep the house going. So definitely, invest your time and if possible, some form of resource, whether it's a church-wide resource to assist those families to get by.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing that. We thought we are all doing well, hasn't it? When we see the military set, it's very prestigious, it looks like, but thank you for sharing that here. Yeah, Sister He, Dr. He.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Thank you for the honesty in your response. So we're going with the theme of love through sacrifice. My question is, and this stems from most of the time when we talk about sacrifice in marriages, is usually the woman doing most of the sacrifice. So my question is, if it was a sister that was in the military, would you have been able to travel around with her and be responsible for the kids while she was in the military?
That's a good question. As a matter of fact, the military is predominantly male. However, we do have military members who are female, and their spouses, the males, are the dependents. Yeah. And it happens all the time. So you have actual groups for dependent male spouses, and they come together on base, because you have to have an ID to enter base, and they will play sports, they'll do stuff like that. So they are supportive, but it's a dynamic of that relationship that makes it so unique, because it takes a special person to be a military spouse, either male or female. You understand the assignment, okay, my spouse, male or female, is traveling, I'm going to go with them, and if the roles were reversed, trust me, I would support her just as well, because I know that there are times where it seems kind of lopsided. She's sacrificing, but I've seen on the other side where some of my comrades, there have been 20, 23, 26 years, females, and their male counterparts are just tagging along with them as well.
Thank you very much. Yep. A fellow soldier.
Sure.
Brother David, yeah.
Praise the Lord. So I'm going to contribute to a little bit of what Sister Sonia said. So she talked about how you can help a military family. And she did mention something about, especially if the spouse, the other spouse is not working, I wanted to add that it's not only when the other spouse is not working. Even when the other spouse is working too, sometimes the military family struggle, We had the same experience, because my wife was working at that time, but because she had to work, that means we had to pay for childcare. Yeah. Childcare was very, very expensive. It was very expensive trying to get 3-4 kids in after school, because she has to be at work, and I have to leave. Sometimes I have to get off my duty to quickly go pick up my kids. I remember so many times that they'll be calling me from the daycare, telling me that every minute that you go past, you know, the time you're supposed to pick up your kids, you're paying $1 for every minute, you know. So yeah, so I'll literally be fighting my chain of command. They're calling me from the daycare. I'm gonna be paying so much money. So even if the other spouse is working, it can still be very challenging, you know. So like Brother Morris said, having Brother Ebenezer and the Chinedu being able to be on hand to be able to go pick up those kids, you know, and you being able to avoid all those extra payments for daycare can be very helpful. So that was the contribution I was gonna make. Now for the question, you guys talked about, you know, being able to cope when, you know, Brother Morris was away, you know, things like that. So just for the people who are single, you know, or they are in the process of, you know, dating, how can they cope with the distance, you know, being a Christian lady, a Christian man, and they are doing like kind of like long distance relationship? What would you suggest? How can they cope with that?
Are they married?
No, like
There's a
dating.
relationship here.
They're dating?
Yes.
Long distance relationships are tricky.
So
Okay.
let me rephrase that question. So during the time you guys were dating, right? I know you say you were a musician, you had to travel a lot. I believe that happened even when you guys were dating, you know, before you guys finally decided to settle down. How were you guys able to, like, the communication, you know, keep it going, or did that happen at all?
Well, mine was a little bit different because I was traveling a lot more before we met. Once we met, we had mutual interest because I played for one of the groups and she actually sang backup for the guy. So we were now traveling together. So I think that's where she started looking at me differently. You understand? Because I was all about business and money,
Yeah.
and she was looking from the side eye. But to answer your question about the distance, like anything else, be intentional and communication. Because a lot of relationships, here at this church, we have testimonies of persons who we met some persons on the East Coast. Sister Ahi, I'm looking at you. And the person would communicate a lot back and forth. So communication is key. And when it's time for you guys to come together, it actually sweetens the connection because you have that ongoing communication.
Thank you very much for your responses. Okay, so I'll take, is it Star Blessing? I can't see.
Yes.
Yeah, then Dr. Han. After.
I just have a quick question. So what do you think about receiving gift from the opposite sex? Like, so when she came and gave you the calculator, like, I don't know, like, and you said it was expensive. Like, is there like a budget? So like now she's buying something that's kind of out of range to you. Like, it's kind of, and you received it, and it's like she's expecting something in return, and then like, you know what I mean? Like, so are you supposed to just reject it? Because she might feel hurt, like, if you don't pursue after you collected her calculator, you know? Like,
She's on her own
No
because
strings
I needed the
attached.
calculator and the Lord provided. No, I wasn't thinking like that. It did spike me as very interesting. Like, why would this girl give me this expensive calculator? Not realizing that there was something there. But it tells you about her heart. She really wanted to see me do well in school. Now, did you have ulterior motive? Okay. Right.
so maybe it's I'm not sure if maybe like from a Nigerian perspective, me being Nigerian, like I imagine like growing up, if guys would approach me and stuff and they will give you stuff that is kind of like a little bit above, you know, certain budget, it's like you need to be careful because it might be consent without consent in a way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I may, like you said, it could be a cultural thing because for us, just giving somebody, and the fact that we were friends, and he was sharing his concerns about school and all of that. So to me, it was nothing. I mean, you sound like you need a calculator, so I'll get you a calculator so it will help you in your schooling. So that's how I thought about it.
Great, yeah. Brother David, you have let Brother David come in.
It's a follow-up to this. Now, this is to Brother Morris directly. Did that in any way impact your decision, you know, to probably pursue, you know, when you received that gift? Did that in any way, just honestly?
It definitely showed me the person, the character. Let me give you an example. And it might not have been a calculator, but it's just the way she carried herself at the time. There was another young lady that I was interested in. And I remember a friend of mine, they were twins. So the friend came to me and said, Brother Morris, I need to go with this one girl, this twin, but I need a side dude to help me to get them apart. I said, what do you mean? He said, together they're strong, apart they're easy. I said, okay, no problem. So he came and picked me up at the house. At that time, my mother had this really old car, a 1987 Mitsubishi Tredia. The car, it looked exactly what it sounds like. It was bad. So he said, okay, you drive your mother's car, I'll drive my car. So we went to the house, and I remember he went, and the first twin came out, and she went to him. The second twin, it was a house of 12 girls. Yes, same father, same mother, 12 girls, and one son. They were all outside braiding hair and communal, like. And the girl that was coming to my car, she made the biggest exclamation, this old car. Oh, yeah. I drove off. Fast forward a year later, I was still driving the same car. And I remember we were talking, and her car had an issue. And I said to her, okay, I will help you with the car because I know a good mechanic. Would you mind driving my car to work? And she said, well, no problem. And I said, hey. A couple of months ago, the first girl did what? Embarrassed me. And the way she was so humble, I mean, the car, if you see this car, it needed prayer. And she was able to take the car, and I said, there's something different about her. So it was her heart. So it wasn't so much that, I was looking at what is a way I could tell.
Glory. All right, thank you very much. I'll take Dr. Han, then Pastor Mrs.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. When Auntie Sonia was talking, she kept on saying when we joined the military, And like, my head is only one person that is inside that. Sorry. I'm just saying that in the discussion, I realized that you joined after marriage. In the discussion for you to join, how did it go, and how did Auntie Sonia perceive it? Because it's like, even though he is joining, the impact is on both family. Yep. So how did the discussion go? And what if she had said no? What would have been your decision?
That's a good question, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. When we got married, a lot of you know Savannah has some medical situation with sickle cell. All right, it's not a secret. The job I was working, I was an EMT paramedic first, and I was just working, hustling, and the job I had did not have insurance. Savannah had several issues. She was sickling like every so often, right? In and out of hospital, and every time she'll go, it would be $30,000 per visit for a blood transfusion. At the time I had to do something, she had 3. We had owed almost $100,000 worth of medical bills. You're talking about this was the early 2000s. And I said to her, we need insurance. Because back then, it was considered a pre-existing condition, and no insurance company would insure us. Yeah. So I said, where can we go and get insurance? And I remember somebody, I tried the police department, because I not only did I work on the ambulance, I actually worked as well in the jail. So I took care of inmates. And the deputies wanted to hire me as a deputy, because they had very good insurance with the county. But the hiring freeze happened in 2008. So as a result, we decided, okay, where can we go to make money and get good insurance for Savannah and for her? And the military, after a long conversation, was one of the options. We didn't join Autumn right away. I remember we'll sit down and we'll write questions down together. Yeah. And as soon as we write the questions down, we'll go back to the recruiter. And we'll ask him the questions. And once we got the answers, we'll leave. And the guy got so mad with us. We did that for almost a month. Because we wanted to make sure that we were making an informed decision for both of us. And once he told us, okay, the military will pay for medical bills and everything, so we might not make much in money, but the benefits are really substantial. And I think we decided together, pros and cons, and we asked him, will I go on ship? The guy said, yes. But if you go on this particular job, you won't go on ship. Okay, good. Then we'll leave. Then the guy will go back again. By the way, do we get more money for each child? They said, no, only the same money. So we actively were part of the decision. So when we actually went in, it was mutual because we already satisfied each other's concerns.
That was a very great approach. That's a very great approach. Thank you. Mommy, Pastor.
Yes, thank you so much. Brown Sister Wilson, we've learned so much from your openness and the willingness to share. And there's some point that you mentioned, Brother Wilson, that I really want to emphasize on, especially because of our young ones. One of it is the fact that when you're married and you have to deploy, and you're going for a long time, and there's this opportunity to do whatever you want to do without your spouse, being aware of it. But you have to really caution yourself. You have this self-discipline by the assistance of the Holy Spirit. So, which means that even when we married in Christendom, there's the need to have self-control, because it may not even only be in the military. It might be, maybe you are a secretary to a boss, or maybe you are a partner to an opposite sex in the office, and you have to work together. And the flesh, of course, will speak sometimes. So it's very important, even as we proclaim to be Christian, to also have self-discipline and to be on guard. Because those are the temptations that comes to attack marriages. And if you're not careful, you don't say, because my partner is a Christian, everything is good and rosy and everything. No, we have to keep praying for one another. So that's one thing that I really want our young ones to know, and even the married ones too. If you're working in that situation, it happens a lot in choir, because you have this lady that sings beautifully, and then you're not married as a brother, and you're looking somehow, if she's the one is, just like you're in the same ministry, but we thank God for that the Holy Spirit led you. So, and it can happen in the office, it can happen anywhere, but the temptation is there, is my bottom line. So you have to be very careful. Now, the other thing that I learned is when you said she bought you a calculator, and Sister Blessing was asking, was that with an intention, or was it just natural? That's a lesson to the girls, because I think even the Bible talks about it in the when Abraham's servant was going to look for a wife for Isaac, and it was praying that the lady that comes to give me water and give my camel water. So for sisters, I think you just have to be kind-hearted. Apart from the fact that you are a Christian, you have to be yourself. Don't push yourself out of the way to do something, but you have to be kind. That's one thing that many people are looking onto you as a sister, as a young lady that is not married. It could be your spouse, it could be your spouse's family, it could be your friends, it could be anything. So for sisters, we really have to be kind-hearted. And the Holy Spirit will now lead you, or maybe open door for you. Whichever way the Lord wants to do it. But I just want us to have that in the plate as young ladies. The men need to be kind-hearted too, but mostly the girls. So if you're not married, just pray that God will give you the grace to be compassionate and to be kind-hearted and to be able to take care of one another. Now, the last one that I want to talk about is helping young married couple. Thank God that you said you had your pastor's wife. Thank God for her, for everything that she did. I wish I can do that. But it shows that when we have young and newly married couple, there are areas that we that are already married, that truthfully we can reach out, we can check on them, we can call them, we can be there for them. I remember, even as I look at Mama's face right now, when Sister Dickness B had a triplet, there are some of our grannies that took it upon themselves to go to our place. They stayed over there, they slept. These are ways that we can bear each other's burden as a church. So that's just a lesson that I want us to take to heart, that if you see anyone that you think that they are in need, or even if they're not in need, but you can just check on them, especially if they are new, they're young, they just relocated, whatever it is, let's just be open-hearted and willing to help one another and to check on each other, because it really tells a long story. It lays a good impression on the person you're doing it for. And it makes a whole lot of difference. So I just want to say thank you again for sharing with us. God bless you. Thank you.
All right. I have one question before we take the questions online. I heard you to beyond the music ministry, you have a ministry for couples, married ones. I wanted to throw more light on that. Yeah, mentorship or whatever. Yes, something like that. I heard.
Yeah. So our couples ministry, we actually started couples ministry before we joined the military.
Okay.
Because we saw in our local church then, we saw a real need for it. And that was something that the Lord really put in our heart. And we actually started inviting couples over to our house, and we would have, and this week it would be, or this month it would be just a handful of people. The following month it was a whole lot of people, and it just started growing and growing. So it was something that God really put in our heart because of the need that we saw, and just the desire to see couples be successful in their marriage. When we started out, we had several couples, several persons in our age group at that time that got married. And unfortunately today, the same year, yeah. And unfortunately today, many of them are not, they're divorced. Yeah. So it was just that, and I believe that us doing that back then, it really helped to bring us closer. It really helped to solidify our marriage, because that's just something we want to see young people like us, whatever age group you are, be successful in marriage.
Yeah, and I think I want to echo that, because, and I think that's part of how God orchestrated everything, because of our military service, every church that we have been since we left Florida, we have started a couples ministry, and not only launched it, but it's growing, and every time we go back and forth, we try to make sure that because it's a critical part of us as Christians. There are a lot of things that's still taboo, even in the church. Yeah. And by the help of God, when my wife and I, we meet with couples and we talk with them, we're very real. We're very open, we're very candid, we don't hide anything, because there's some things that we might not be able to see at the pulpit here, but when you're with us one-on-one, we'll give it to you raw, we'll give it to you open. And I think that's important, because marriages are failing at an alarming rate in Christendom, even more so than in the secular world. And I think we owe it to ourselves as children of God to go into some areas that we're not comfortable, to make sure that persons understand that their marriage has teeth. But at the same time, if you know how to navigate some difficult challenges, that our marriages can be strong.
Thank you very much. You have questions online? Yeah. Dr. Tusin.
But one more. The question to Auntie Sonia, it was said, military families, we have some of them that because of the constant move, the family, the wife and the kids, they stay stationary, and the one in the military does so want to find out what was the reason why you could have decided to just stay in one place and let Uncle Maurice do the move. What was the reason behind? Because you mentioned all the sacrifices. It may not have made sense to move around, maybe just stay with the kids. So what was the reason behind you choosing to move?
It really, I think we've had like many discussions about, okay, what are we going to do this time around? What's going to happen? And it always just happened to, it just worked out that when it's time for him to move, I automatically, I'm freed up to move with him, whether it's a job situation or whatever the case is. Give you an example. When we moved from here, from Texas the last time in 2020, God orchestrated COVID. I don't know. But my job at that time said, it's okay, everybody's working from home. So you can still maintain your job here in Texas, but you can be in California. So that worked out perfectly. I didn't have to give up my job to move with him. So that worked out. And in other situations where I think when we were moving from California, actually the first time we moved from Florida, it was during a period where I I was working like a part-time job situation, and just kind of everything was a bit unstable. So that worked out. So it always happened to work out in the perfect way so that it would give me allowance to go along with him.
Thank you. I think that would end our session for this evening. Let's appreciate our couple. God richly bless you for sharing your story with us, and we look forward to your mentorship as the years go by. All right, let's appreciate the Wilson family as they take their seats. And thank you all for helping us have a very good discussion this evening.